we were brought up in a Christian home, and we were familiar with the gospel and all that, and we knew the gospel and everything. But that doesn't make you a Christian. But my father and mother, they were godly parents, very strict. We were always, but the Sunday school was the highlight of our Sunday. We loved going. And John Smith, the elder, we loved him. You know, he made all the Bible stories so real to us. And I would honestly say that maybe the seed was sown then, growing up.
Yeah.
And I was only 15 and at secondary school. And normally every Sunday night and every prayer meeting night, people were always in with us, my father and mother fellowshipping, and we loved that. We loved that as children. We loved it. We were used to having a house full of the godly people. This night, Duncan Campbell had been all week in the parish church, and nothing happened. And he found it hard going. I remember him telling my father, so the Sunday night, the meeting would be in our own Shabbat church, the one nearest. And there were 6 of us in the family. There was 2 younger than me, and the 4th daughter, a brother, and then another sister. She's home with us just now. And my mother said, and there was a lady, an old lady that had died just 2 houses in the road. And my mother said, I don't think we'll have anybody out tonight. We'll all be probably going to the wake after the church service. And I was the one to stay with my 2 younger than me, and that was okay. But after the church service, one of my sisters, she was weeping at the door, and she said to my mother, she says, everything that was preached tonight, it was for me. And she couldn't go away. She had to shake hands with Duncan Campbell. Duncan Campbell and Mr. Mackay, our own minister, they went home to the manse. And I didn't expect anybody to come in except my mother and father and my 2 sisters. My 3 older sisters were at the meeting. Dolina, Margaret and Macamary, and now Agnes. And the door opened and Mrs. Smith and my mother came in with Macamary. And I looked at them. I knew something had happened. They were weeping and they were so joyful. And I ran down to the kitchen and I stayed in the kitchen. And then the house, before we knew it, the house was full, the sitting room was full. And those that were at the wake made their way out to our house. Our house was at the other end of the croft. You had to go out that road. The Holy Spirit took them all out. And there was another 3 that had been to the meeting and were under conviction, and they couldn't stay at home. They had to come out. One of them is Reverend John Modo Smith, and he went for his neighbour, and he says, oh, I don't know, will we go? Yes. And she was said, yes, we have to go. We have to go out. We'll go out. And 6 of us that night came to the Lord.
Wonderful.
Me included. And I'll tell you, I was down in the kitchen and I was weeping. I didn't know why. And we made tea, and I stayed in the kitchen. And my brother and sister, they went to bed. I stayed in the kitchen and I was weeping and weeping. And they were praying and praising and singing. And my mother went down to the kitchen and she said to me, Agnes, she said, do you want to come up with the rest? Whenever she said that, whenever I said, yes, ma'am, I knew what was wrong with me. I wanted to get what the other had. Though a lot of things I didn't understand, but that comes later. And then Dolina, Margaret didn't come for our fortnight afterwards. Macamary in church, and they were all there in our sitting room, and another 4 unconverted, but they came to faith in our house. That was 6 of us. And I remember my father saying, well, Duncan Campbell, he knew about the one at Macamary in church, but they went back to the manse. Now, from that day, night, the meetings would be in the Baptist church. And when we woke up on Monday morning, there was no way. I forgot about school. I should have gone to school. And the joy in our home. We had a big business going and the post office. And my father had heart trouble, and he was the boss, but he could do it in the house. But he didn't do much practical, but he was still the postmaster. And Margaret and Jolena, they hold the fort, they were doing it. And the joy in our home that morning, when I came downstairs, and we couldn't wait for the evening, to go to church, to go to the Baptist church. And Margaret was sort of fighting against it, but Jolena was, and they were trying to finish everything early, so that we would get to the meeting. Now, as regards myself, I had no conviction of sin. And the others were crying out, crying out to the Lord. And when I mentioned Reverend John Motor Smith, he's still living. He's in US. He told my father, I was fighting against it. I wanted to have my fill of the word. But he says, I knew whenever we entered your home, he said, I just surrendered my all. And knew from that point that the Lord wanted all of me, that I had to do something about it. And before he went home that night, he was banging on the table, who will separate us from the love of God? And we were all weeping with joy. And that was okay. But, the years passed. I'm talking about myself. The years passed and that. And I knew I was a sinner and everything. But somebody came. We saw a lot coming and asking and quizzing me, and he said about conviction of sin, and I said I didn't have conviction of sin. I know it now. And it bothered me, and I went down and said, no, I wasn't be like everybody else. Oh, it was terrible. while I opened it, I was pleading with the Lord, and I opened my Bible, and I was sure that the Lord would show me something. Yea, I have loved you with an everlasting love, and with cords of love I have drawn you. So that's me.
That's wonderful.
People were being saved every night. Every night you would hear weeping. They would be weeping. And then Margaret came, and that was 4 of us. And my father, that was in December, and when March came at the communions, my father took the 4 of us to the Lord's table together. That was wonderful. His 4 daughters together to the Lord's table. Margaret has died, and my brother died, and the singing and the church would be packed, and buses were coming from all over the island, and sometimes the things I remember most that touched myself, I wanted my friends to join me, and they did, my schoolmates, and they did, and the 3 of us would be always together and sharing, and it was wonderful. And I remember very often after the benediction there would be a cottage meeting, Duncan Campbell called it. We never went home, there was something else, and you wanted something else, more of the Lord. And we young ones, the house would be packed. We all opened our homes, and we would very often, we would be in the bedrooms, we would go into the bed, take our shoes off, and let the older people sit on the bed, and the houses would be packed. Now, when we always knew, the ones that had been to church, and when they would go to a cottage meeting, we sort of prayed for them and keeping an eye on them. But the prayer meeting told it all. The prayer meeting was increasing week by week. Yes. And very often in the church, in the Baptist church, and there's a lot of steps, and we would be standing on the steps, not wanting to go away. There's one night that stays in my mind. Wonder if it's 132, Psalm 100. We were on the steps and not wanting to go away. I think probably we went inside once or twice, but we were always going. We knew where the cottage meeting would be, and the elder started singing. It was Gaelic. It was all Gaelic. I shall not go. How does it go? To bed until I find the God of Jacob. Do you know the verse? Is it Psalm 132?
I have to check. Do you have your Bible?
There's that one, and there's that one over there.
This one?
A friend gave me that, and partly cited as well. That's an old Bible. Whether it's 132, I'm not sure.
I will not give sleep to mine eyes, or slumber to mine eyelids, until I find out a place for the Lord, and a habitation for the mighty God of Jacob.
Yes, these are the two verses he sang. And well, let me tell you, the Gaelic is better. The Gaelic is wonderful. I feel, because we were brought up in the Gaelic, and two verses of that, and I thought, oh Lord, this is for everybody. Surely everybody's seeking the Lord. You know, the power in that singing.
Wonderful.
Oh my goodness. And we used to sing in the bus, on the bus, everywhere we were singing. We were singing and singing, and there was a crowd of us young people. Probably I would be the youngest in our own church, I think so. We couldn't stay. My father used to say, go while you can, go while you can. He encouraged us. Oh my goodness, that's what we need again.
We do.
Oh my goodness. You know, everybody's talking about, I know myself, I've become very rusty. I need shaking. But you know what I mean? Everybody talks, oh well, the normal, when we get to normal. And I say, Lord, it's not normal, we want more than that. It's not normal.
No.
It's you we need, it's you we need. Now, having gone through all that, I'm seeing the Lord working. My goodness, we want to see it again. We want to see a better one. Whatever God does for us. I've been everywhere, if you know what I mean. That has never left me. I wanted to be where the Lord is being preached. Apart from our own congregation, I would be everywhere. And this is the first time that my wings have dropped, so to say. But yet I go. I shall not die, but still declare the works of the Lord.
Amen.
Is that what I'm doing now?
You are.
I thought, I don't know, nobody else would come anymore.
And this message,
Pardon?
This message that you have spoken will be heard by many, many people.
You know, I went through a bad patch with my hip and all that, and I was saying, well, I'm 87. Heather said to me, 3 years, another 2 years, 3 years before you retire. And I said, 3? She said, you'll be 90 then. And I thought, oh my goodness. And then I took stock of my age. I didn't feel I was getting old, because I always wanted to be out. And there wasn't a convention that I wouldn't be there. But until this year, I wasn't able. And then I was saying, well, I won't be sharing the Lord. I won't be doing the works of the Lord. And I thought, well, this is, thank you for coming.
Oh, it's a privilege to be here with you.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean.
I still want to share
Yes.
share with the Lord.
Yes.
To share the Lord.
Well, can I read from a psalm? Psalm 85.
Pardon?
Psalm 85.
Yes. And of got 2 hearing aids. You can talk loudly,
I'll speak louder.
please.
Yes. Psalm 85, verse 4 and 5. Turn us, O God, of our salvation, and cause thine anger toward us to cease. Wilt thou be angry with us forever? Wilt thou draw out thine anger to all generations? Wilt thou not revive us again, that thy people may rejoice in thee? Shew us thy mercy, O Lord, and grant us thy salvation. I will hear what God the Lord will speak, for he will speak peace unto his people and to his saints, but let them not turn again to folly. Surely his salvation is nigh them that fear him, that glory may dwell in our land. Amen.
Yes. 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 But I had found myself, God, no fellowship, not going out, as if I was getting rusty,
Well, it's
very rusty. And I crave for fellowship, for us
Yes.
to be together again.
yes.
And a few of my closest friends, my beloved sisters, they've gone before me. And I miss that.
Yes.
And I've always said, Lord, whatever, use me, whatever's left of me. And I had come to in my own thinking, well, that's over now. But it's not.
No.
Thank you for coming.
Oh,
If you know what I
privilege.
mean.
I do know what you mean. All the glory to Jesus.
Yes, yes.
All the glory to Jesus.
Yes, yes. Oh, so many wonderful things, I could share, I tried to. And I said, another friend of mine, she says, my goodness, you've got a memory. Well, can't you share? You've been through it like me. Well, she says, I can't come out with it like you can. And yet, if I start with my testimony, it gives you an insight of the first night.
Yes.
But there was a revival in 1939.
Yes.
That's when my mother and father came to faith.
Ah.
And we had a granny in bed, my father's mother. And when we were very little, she died, I think, after I went to school. She was a godly woman. Now, I know myself, these godly people, the generation before us, they were poor. They prayed for everything. And my granny used to tell us a lot of love. Even my mother nursed 3 of my daddy's aunties. They were godly women. They were 3 widows, no children, no family, and he brought them. He built a wee house beside our house. No, they weren't there together, but when they were failing in health, Dad and my mother looked after her. My mother was the best person I've ever come across. And my mother used to tell us, this was before they were growing up, about these ladies. How they needed some things, and they would pray and place it out before the Lord. And the Lord would never let them down. And these lovely things in our lives growing up was so special, and that has never left us. So I know maybe the seed was sown. Duncan Campbell said, it wasn't me, it was ripe, just ripe, getting ripe. No, the praying elders, they were praying. And I know that when they would come to our own house, they were always praying for the lost. I'm saying the lost because that was the way it sounded in Gaelic. And I used to think, why, I'm not lost, boys, you know. But they were always praying for the lost. Now, I can share this with you. The Point communions. Oh, Point was, oh my goodness, blessed. There were so many godly people in Point. They were everywhere. I think my dad's generation, they were praying people, praying. I don't know who the speaker was going to be in Point. It was our own Church of Scotland. And our own elders went over, and they would stay for the weekend if you could. And when they came back, my uncle, one of the elders, on Monday evening when they came back from Point, somebody over there said to him, be sure when you go back home, go back to Shadder or Barfus, be sure and hold a meeting, a house meeting. And he said, I saw the angels going over there. A vision of angels going over there. And he did. There was a house meeting over in Ballinthusha, just across the river there, and a few were saved. And that started. Now that was by not by preaching, prayer meetings. And I remember my mother telling me there would be a meeting in the church, a prayer meeting, and then a house meeting, same as in our generation. And she said, well, Daddy would have to stay. They had to take a turnabout. And she said, this night I was so blessed. She had just come to the Lord in the Shadder Church. And she says, I didn't want to go home. I was needed to go over the bridge, over to the other meeting. And she says, I had to go home, and then Daddy would go to the next one. And she said, I stood at the corner there where the kiosk is. That's where a business was and a post office. And she said, I saw, she said, a ball of light. So I walked slowly out, and it stayed with me. It stayed with me until I went into the house. And then I went upstairs, she said, so that I would see it out the window, but it wasn't there. And she said, I remember her saying, it was the Lord telling me, even if you have to go home, I'm still with you. I'm still with you. And that was so special. So special, so special. No, I didn't experience that. But it was good. Oh Lord, do it again.
Do it again, Lord.
Come in power,
Amen.
come in power.
Amen.
Come in power.
Yes, Father. Do it again, Lord. For the glory of Jesus.
You think of all the politicians and everyone. The Lord isn't mentioned in anything. He's outside. That grieves us.
It does.
Grieves us. He's outside.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking, Lord, what are you going to do with us?
We pray, we keep praying. We seek for a mighty outpouring.
Wait for it. It shall surely come.